Good evening, this is Ryan Mallory for SharePlanner.com. Today is January 12th, 2011. It's been a while since I've done a market video, but I felt like today was probably a better time than never to do one. I wanted to point out some observations that I've seen in the market of late. So let's go ahead and jump right here in the S&P 500. Overall today, we had a day where we're almost at 1%. We cleared through some major resistance levels. Volume was about average. Nothing too exciting, but it's been like that pretty much the entire year here. I know the year is young, but overall it's been very consistent, very average. So there's not really much to deduct from the volume patterns at all. But we did break through the resistance level at 1278, so that helps the bulls' cause. That 1278 was becoming a real stinker for the bulls to break through, and we had seen a few intraday sell-offs like yesterday and the day prior when we had tested that level. So that's good for the bulls to be able to get that behind. But now where we start getting things start getting interested as we're now hitting the upper Bollinger Band, and in the past we hit that on the first day of the new year, and we saw some consolidation and slight selling that ensued. We've seen it here back on November 4th where we went well beyond it, almost 3 standard deviations outside of the 20-day moving average. And then what happened? We saw a pretty significant sell-off that occurred thereafter. We don't touch it that much, and when we do, like right here for instance, we touched it on an intraday basis. We had a pretty hard sell-off thereafter. So we're at a place here where you don't want to be technically 100% long, or especially in margin. After today, I'm about 25% long. I wasn't really happy with how a lot of my stocks were doing. The breadth in the market wasn't that great. So I got out. I wanted to protect, the profits that I made up to this point in the year, and basically just see how it reacts tomorrow. I'm not afraid to put on new trades in this market. I'll play some more breakout plays if the market shows a relatively healthy amount of strength tomorrow, and I'll put those positions on and see if we can get some nice upward momentum still. The market has no problem rallying for days and days on end, even beyond rationale, but one thing that does usually concern me though is when we start hitting those Bollinger Bands in the process. A lot of times that leads to profit taking. So it's always better to take the profits before everybody else does, because when you're trying to get out with the crowd, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of fear, and your losses are always a lot more. So using days like today where the market's up, selling on strength is usually the preferred way to capture consistent gains as a swing trader. We're also trading within a pretty narrow channel here. I've outlined this channel here that goes back to August, and we've tested the bottom twice, and we've tested the top here twice. 1, 2, 1, 2. But there's also another channel that we seem to be trading in here of late, going back to early December. Here, if you can differentiate some of these lines. I know I got a bunch of them. That's one thing I don't help viewers with, is how many moving averages I look at and stuff like that. But there you go. So I'm going to zoom in here, but you can see, make it a little bit more precise. Alright, so as you can see, we're in a very narrow channel here. Not a lot of wiggle room, and it's very easy for us to hit the bottom in one day and hit the top the next, or even in the same intraday. But we're trading within it very narrow. There's also a good reason to believe that, because we're hitting the top of it here, that either A, we see a breakout from here, or we see a pullback back down to like the 1270 level or so. Maybe a little bit less than 1270 here. I'll give you an exact number. About 1267, 1268. Now it increases each day, so depending on the duration it takes for us to hit the bottom channel depends on what that price level that bottom channel represents. So I think with the Bollinger Bands that it's hitting up against the upper Bollinger Bands, and it's also because you can see here this upper line, this upper channel has since the very end of last year has coincided pretty nicely with the upper Bollinger Band, and when we've hit it, like we did in January 3rd, we did see a little bit of selling. We never broke above this channel. We never broke above the Bollinger Band, but we did test the bottom of it here twice. So I think there's a good chance that we could see a pullback here in the coming days. I don't think it's going to be a significant one. If it does, then you got to start protecting capital where you can. But I don't know if you'll see, if we start seeing, some weakness here. I don't know if you'll see me putting on as many positions as you have seen me put in the last week and a half here. So you want to keep these kinds of patterns that I'm pointing out in mind as you go into the trading day tomorrow. I only have 4 positions going into tomorrow. One is FSLR. That's a very trending industry right now, so that can definitely buck the trend if the market's to sell off. FCX, which is your metals and mining, those have been pretty hot of late as well. MMM is one that would definitely be impacted more likely than not, and MWV is another one that probably feel a little bit of pinch. But going back to the beginning of the year, I've been somewhere between 40 and 60% capitalized for most of this early part of this year. So being about 24-25% long, that doesn't give me a lot of risk exposure to the market, but it does give me a dog in the fight should we continue to rally. And then let's look at the weekly charts here as well. You can see here, just looking at the weeklies, the trend line really coincides nicely as well with the weekly patterns. You have a trend line here that goes back to September that we're well and above extended over. So I don't think it would happen soon, but it's not out of the question that you couldn't see a pullback ultimately come back down to the 1240s or so. I'm not going short anytime in the near future. I'm going to need some price confirmation before I start laying on any of the short positions. I considered gold today. I thought it was a pretty good position, but it rallied a little bit in the afternoon, which sort of scared me away because I felt like it had destroyed some of the thesis that I was going to be trading on. So no point in adding the extra risk. So that'll conclude this market wrap up here, and I hope you guys all have a great evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.